You have your own league now.
Yes, sir.
The game-bred bare-knuckle MMA.
Yes, sir.
You call it the most violent show in the world.
Yes, sir.
Now, you started out bare-knuckle boxing.
Yes, sir. Not
And now
not
this
bare
has
knuckle
gone
boxing.
full circle.
In the Kimbo yards, at least for us, it was kicks, knees, elbows. You could do it all, just no ground stuff, no jiu-jitsu stuff, which was perfect for me.
Right. Was biting legal back then or no?
No biting. Hell no.
No biting.
Biting's for the hoes, man.
I mean, I remember me and Michael Jai White had a conversation about this beforehand, and he sort of explained to me how bare knuckle is just a little bit different than traditional fighting, where there's a lot more cuts,
Yeah,
and a lot more blood, but boxing actually will hurt you more because you'll get hit a lot more, in a typical boxing match. So you could have more brain injury essentially in a boxing match than a bare knuckle, but it has its own set of really things that are unique to it. What do you see as different with bare knuckle and other forms of fighting?
First and foremost, your hands. You gotta pick your shots a little bit better. Hit somebody in the top of the head, you might break it. And then you don't have a hand, and that sucks. But also, that being said, for grapplers, they fucking love it because you have all this tape and gauze, and then you have a 4-ounce glove, right? So a lot of times to finishing a submission, the key is the lock. And when you're trying to get the lock with these gloves, it kind of hampers that lock, Or when you get to a good position like my back, and now I could just grab on your glove and stall, and now you can't move this hand, and this is like your choke hand. When you don't have gloves mixed with the sweat, like you can't stop these hands from sliding in, getting into positions, getting into a good lock, and just finishing it, So we see the submissions fucking going through the roof. At every show, if we have 10 fights, we have about 8 to 9 finishes per show. Even when the fight hits the ground, the fans are like this because they know at any moment it could end, You elbow the guy in the face, now he turns around and gives you back and does the usual, okay, I'm going to grab your glove and just stay here until the referee stands us up. No, it's like you do that and you're fucking getting choked out. Now the fight's over. So we're seeing a lot of submission guys coming on over and doing just fine. And more, I'm getting calls from bigger and bigger grapplers, world champions, ex-world champions that want to come over to the show and prove their worth because they see that now without these gloves, they could get into positions where it might be a stall. But now when you get there with no gloves, you got a good chance of finishing the guy.
Well, I mean, it's actually illegal in most states.
Yes.
Wyoming, Mississippi, it's legal. And I think other states are thinking about making it legal.
Florida's legal. Texas will be legal this year. Louisiana, it's legal. Tennessee, it's legal. Legal in like 25 states. Yeah, legal. When I got into it, it was legal like in 5-6 states, and we've been pushing. Now we're legal like in 20 to 25 states. It's the same thing as the UFC. The UFC at first was illegal almost everywhere, and it wasn't illegal in Denver, and then they went to Denver, and then from there they spread out, and I don't know how long it took them to get legal in New York and stuff like that, So it's definitely an uphill battle, but I love it. I'm going to be here for a long time pushing.
Well, they had to change the rules in UFC to make it legal in most places. Because if you remember, like UFC 1, you can kick someone in the face while they're on the ground. Weight classes didn't matter in the beginning. I remember, when I interviewed Fry, it was like, you could have a 400-pounder and a 150-pounder. The 400-pounder would usually lose, So it was kind of like a mess in the beginning. And they had to tighten things up in order for, general society to accept it. But,
that's why
from what I understand, like the real fear in MMA is that someone might get severely injured or even die. And that's kind of the sticking point when it comes to that sport.
Definitely, But thank goodness, in America, I think there's been no recorded deaths in MMA. I know boxing holds way more deaths every year than MMA, and it's obviously a very sad thing, but it's also because, like the rules set, and though MMA looks a lot more violent, at the end that ends up being a little bit safer. I'll explain. If I drop you in the second round of our boxing match and you take a knee and you get a break now for 8 seconds and then you stand up at 8 and now, you go to your corner, you come back out, you keep fighting, there's a minute left in the round, now you go back to your corner, you have another minute, and now you've recuperated enough where you take a beating for another 5 rounds. And there's only 2 things to do in boxing, either I hit you in the head or I hit you in the body, and you keep taking all that abuse, and then I stop you like in round 8 and now you get utterly knocked out. You took all those blows that time after you had already gotten knocked down and after your brain had already been shook up. In MMA, if I kick you in the head and you go down and I just touch you a couple times, the referee jumps in there and calls it. And that's it. The fight's over. It looks a lot more violent because you don't get this go down, get a break, the referee gets you up. It looks a lot more violent, but actually the fight's over. And you're not going to take abuse now for another 5 rounds or even 5 minutes. So that's it. The fight is done. You get to live to see another day. And that's why a lot of times in MMA, you could see guys that have been stopped once or twice, and then they come back and they get on a hell of a run and even win world titles. So it's just different, you know?
No, it's true, man. And the most damaged people that I've seen from sports are boxers. Like when I interviewed, like, let's say Riddick Bowe, you could tell that those punches in the heavyweight division have messed him up over the years. It's sad to watch.
And the sparring that they do too, it's just constant. 3 days a week, 4 days a week, these guys are sparring, and it's the same thing. They're just taking impact and impact and impact, and all those vibrations catch up to you, brother.
You yourself, would you fight bare knuckle?
Me myself, I couldn't fight bare knuckle right now. If technology and science gets a lot better and like they could give me Wolverine hands, but I did the bare knuckle thing since I was young, and I did it for a while, and I've had problems throughout my career with my hands, as everybody knows. So if I did one bare knuckle fight, that'd probably be the one bare knuckle fight, you know?
Okay, because you have Nate Diaz coming up June 1st, and you said you have 2 more boxing matches after that.
Yes, sir.
Have they been announced?
They haven't, but we'll be announcing them shortly. There's gonna be some household names, maybe some of those names you talked about earlier. And after that, I'll be coming back to boxing again. So I have 3 fights now, but I'll be doing another 3-fight deal. The more I'm wetting my feet in boxing, the more I'm loving it. Again, not to diss boxing anyway, but the grind is different. Whereas in MMA, I go to wrestling practice and we get into a wrestling position as I'm trying to stuff your takedown. You tweak on my knee and it goes the other way, and now my knees pop. But guess what? At night, I still have to go hit pads and run at night. And then the next day, I go into sparring, and now somebody kicks as hard as they can at my fucking knee. And it's like the same thing, you keep getting like these injuries, and it really beats up your body to get in camp. I'm not taking anything away from boxing because you still get beat up in boxing. But the grind's a little different, a little less on my body in particular. So I'm definitely looking to this boxing journey. I've been doing it already since January, full-time boxing. And these next 2 years, that's all I'm going to be doing is committed to boxing and just expanding my horizons as much as I can in the sweet science.
Well, Jorge Masvidal, man, I really appreciate you coming in. You've had an epic career spanning 20 years now, from bare knuckle to all the smaller leagues, to making it, your way up to the UFC, to having title matches, to having the fastest knockout ever, never ducking anybody.
Never, ever.
Never ducking anybody, to now transitioning into boxing, to, and MMA has always been one of those sports where, a few of the superstars will get money, but in general, a lot of the guys barely scrape by money-wise.
Damn right.
So you managed to really kind of break that glass ceiling and actually, do well financially, because a lot of your peers did not.
Nope. And it's a shame, because like I said, I respect everybody in my sport except this one motherfucker, and I wish that all these motherfuckers could get theirs. It's tough to break through in the MMA, and the money is even harder to break through. To get into the UFC is hard, but to stay in there is even harder, and to actually make some money where it's life-changing, you could sit back and retire after you're done fighting, that's even harder,
Yeah, and I remember you mentioned it on a podcast that while you're training for UFC, you get all the health insurance and everything else like that, but as soon as that fight is over, you're on your own. A lot of the guys don't even have health insurance.
You're on your own, brother. Yeah. Something happens to you outside the job, that's on you,
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming in. I've been a big fan for a while. Like I said, when I saw that 5-second knockout, it was insane. It was like nothing I've ever seen. So, regardless of what happens next, you're in the history books forever.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it, man. Hopefully you can
pull up. Wish you all the best, man. Yeah, I want to come see the fight, man. Give me some tickets.
We'll take care of you, brother. Make sure you got some good-ass seats.
That's what it is. Can't wait. My man, until next time. Peace.